It can only be attributable to human error.
You're entering parallel.
He meddled in things that you people
Form
He meddled in
slug.
things. He meddled in things.
Where will we go next? It's phantom from another
He
time.
meddled in things.
No one but the mother.
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over.
That is one big pile of shit.
What's up, everybody? This is Jasmine. Welcome to Cryptid Campfire.
And this is Alex Daikaiju sitting next to Jasmine, and you're listening to Cryptid Campfire.
And this is Eli Watson sitting across from Jasmine and Alex, and you're listening to Cryptid Campfire.
Today we're doing something a little bit different. We are doing a little bit of a deep dive back into actual history rather than just talking about legends and myths and things like that. Today we're going to be talking about the Bronze Age, and most likely this will be split up into 2 episodes because there's a lot to talk about. The main thing we want to talk about is the collapse of the Bronze Age and the possibilities of why it collapsed. But before we do that, we have to talk about what the Bronze Age actually was, what it involved, where it was, the time period it happened in. So that is what we're going to be talking about today.
Yes, that is true. So, who has info on what the Bronze Age is?
Well, I guess the main thing is that, like, Bronze Age, what's that?
Yeah, what the heck is that?
Yeah, because...
Well, it didn't happen in America, like some people thought.
Yeah.
That some
Not
people...
that there's anything wrong.
Being me. Listen, guys, history was my worst subject in school, but that's why I enjoyed researching this so much, because I was educated and I learned a lot. But the Bronze Age, it took place in the Middle East, Europe, Asia, things like that. So that's the area we'll be talking about, and happened a long, long time ago.
Right, but not so long ago that we don't know what happened.
Ooh.
Famous events include...
Hmm?
Well, I guess famous person is King Tut was alive in the Bronze Age.
All right.
We have the exodus of the Jews from Egypt during the Bronze Age.
As detailed in The Prince of Egypt by DreamWorks.
Yeah, because that's the primary source. That's how we found out about
Yeah.
this, right? And then we have the Trojan War. It's debatable whether or not that actually occurred or not, but it's the subject of the Iliad. So if you ever happen to be in that bookstore, just kidding, I don't know where I'm going with that, but yeah.
Moving on. All right. So, talking about the Bronze Age. So, when did that happen?
So, it says 3000 BCE to around, I forget actually, it says...
It was probably like 1000 BC.
Mm.
Something like that, yeah. But you guys had mentioned earlier the difference between BCE and BC/AD and all of that. So one of you, I think, did a little more research on that than the other.
Yeah,
Alex,
so...
what exactly does that mean?
Yeah, so I'll get into that just briefly. While researching the Bronze Age and kind of earlier civilizations, I came across people refer to things as BCE and BC, and that's kind of the new way of referring to BC and AD. If you've got, going through school, everything was BC, AD. BC means before Christ, AD means Anno Domini, which is the year of our Lord. And that's kind of how we would separate past and present. But now scholars are kind of doing BCE, which is before Common Era, which is the old BC, and CE, which is the new AD, and that means Common Era, because there's some discrepancies between when the year Christ was born, if he was real, and just kind of a whole mess of chronicling time based on different calendars, like the Gregorian calendar, and there was another calendar with a weird name. But for all intents and purposes, I think we'll just be keeping it old school and saying BC and AD for today.
Yeah.
Both of these, this all happened BC, so.
Like Transformers, like NBE1, non-biological extraterrestrial. Try to keep up with the acronyms.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, that's a
didn't
quote,
follow.
direct quote from that movie.
Yeah. I'm schooling you.
Also, but here's something I think we failed to talk about.
Probably.
Why are we talking about the Bronze Age
Yeah,
today?
what is going on?
So, well, like I said at the beginning, we want to talk about the collapse. There's a
Right.
lot of...
But why the collapse of the Bronze Age?
Man, you just really want to get into the spoilers here. The reason we did all this research and looking into history and learning about the Bronze Age was because of the claim that the collapse of the Bronze Age was due in part to the sea people. And we were
Sea
trying...
Yeah.
Yes,
aliens.
we
Oh,
wanted to know.
mermaids.
Because there's a lot of mystery around what/who the sea people actually were. Like, were they people just from another land? There's not a lot of description about them. We don't know where they came from or what region they lived in. So that is the mystery that we're exploring. But before we explore that mystery, we gotta know the background.
Yeah, I gotta set up what the Bronze Age is, and basically, kind of a quick synopsis of what this is sea people showed up at the Bronze Age was when we were kind of at the height of civilization. International trade was going on, Egypt was at its height, and then all of a sudden, within the span of maybe a couple decades,
It just disappeared.
it disappeared. Everything that they had worked on, gone, and didn't start up again for a few thousand years later, once we got out of the Dark Ages.
Right.
So we're going to kind of go over what caused such great and powerful civilizations to collapse, and why did it take us kind of so long to kind of get our feet back on our feet again. And at the root of it is this cryptic sea people that are only mentioned briefly, and that's kind of it. So we're going to kind of delve into what the Bronze Age is, and then talk about what these weirdos are.
The Bronze Age was a time where they learned to use metals. So first they used copper, and then they used pure copper first, but then they made bronze, which is an alloy of copper and tin, because it was harder and more durable than just pure copper. So this made bronze better for tools and weapons. The age was also marked by increased specialization in the invention of the wheel and the ox-drawn plow. And just so everyone knows, I found this information in more than just Wikipedia this week. I went a
Ooh.
little more educational and
dang.
historical with my research. So I consulted a lot of different encyclopedias and different actual credible historical websites and things like that. So that is where my information is coming from, not just my good friend Wikipedia.
Gotcha.
Heck yeah.
Well, I also want to talk about a little bit about bronze itself. Like you said, it's
Sure.
an alloy between tin and copper.
Mhm.
And that in itself is anything that's just like an alloy of something is like already harder to make than just finding something on the ground and picking it up. And so like if you have, because we're talking about 9 societies, 9 groups of people, and I can list them now if you would like.
But who is at the center of this so-called Bronze
Right.
Age?
So we have the Aegeans, which are actually a title for 2 groups of people, the Minoans and the Mycenaeans.
All right.
You have the Egyptians, the Hittites, the Canaanites, the Cypriots, the Mitanni, the Assyrians, and the Babylonians. It's quite a group of people going on, and they're all interconnected in their trading because bronze itself, like, it comes from 2 different places. You have copper coming from Cyprus, and you have tin coming from Afghanistan. And they're shipping these to, like, Egypt, and they're shipping them to Greece. And you're creating these natural trade routes just to move these things. So, like, it's like you said earlier, international trade. We're not talking about, like, a bunch of, like, I don't know, when you said Bronze Age, I thought, like, really not that advanced civilization, but this is, like, pretty...
It's like the height of
It is.
what civilization could be.
Yeah,
Kind of like what we're doing today,
yeah,
but
pretty much,
but
but without
2,000 years ago.
3,000.
3,000. Ooh,
Yeah.
excuse me. And what's kind of interesting too is tin is somewhat rare to find on Earth.
Is it really?
A little bit, yeah. It's not like super rare, like.
That explains, because my source, Eric Klein, he gave a whole seminar about this. He compares tin to being as valuable as oil in today's terms. So that makes sense. now.
And also one source I had compared it to the scarcity of uranium, to where it's not like readily available, but finding it in certain areas, and that's kind of like one of the benefits that the Hittites had, is they were like right there on the only source of tin, kind of in the Bronze Age area, because tin was kind of more over where Europe was.
I got Turkey or Afghanistan for that.
Oh, okay. Well, Hittite Empire was kind of overseeing that area.
All right.
So they had kind of the source of tin and also copper. That was like their two
I'm
big
with it,
economic
That makes
resources.
sense, yeah.
And so that's kind of, I guess they were like the big and the big target. Everyone had targets on the Hittite Empire because they're the only ones who kind of had copper and tin at that point.
I mean, that makes sense. So
Yeah. So what else were you saying?
that sucks for them.
Yeah.
They didn't know that when they settled. Or maybe
Yeah.
they did.
Because they had a private mine on the island of Cyprus for the copper.
Right.
And then they had, in the mountains, they had a tin mine. So they had those two, and Egypt had gold. So that was like Egypt's main import or export, along with
Yeah, but nobody wants gold. This is the Bronze
gold.
Age.
Yeah.
I have also, as far as traversing the lands and everything, and going back to Egypt, we have Hatshepsut's expedition to Punt.
Ooh, I'm digging
Where's Punt, you say? It's actually, we think it might be Ethiopia.
Oh, okay.
So that's quite a distance. Is it from Egypt? Not really. But you have
Geography's not my strong suit either, so.
for some reason I was thinking Egypt was across the Mediterranean, but from Ethiopia, but they're not.
Yeah.
They're practically on top of them.
And they're all around the Agrarian Sea, right?
Yeah.
That's like where this is all taking place.
I don't think so.
Ooh.
I don't think that's yeah, I don't think
Oh,
so.
then I misread my geography for today's topic.
It's all good. I also have one more that's pretty solid evidence for Egyptians traveling around, people traveling around. You have Amenhotep III in his Colossi of Memnon. Basically, it was a mortuary.
Okay. That's where they made mummies, right?
The mics don't
Sorry.
pick that up.
I just made a face. I made a face at Eli because The Mummy from 1999 with Brendan Fraser is my favorite movie.
Ooh.
So when we got into research and I was learning about Egypt and there was mummies and pharaohs and stuff involved, I was like, yes, this is my jam.
Well, Amenhotep could be a mummy, I guess. but,
Emotep. No, I'm just kidding.
Emotep.
Emotep's the one from the movie. Emotep wasn't real, I don't think. Anyways, moving on.
They buried him alive with
I'm
scarabs.
getting schooled. I've never seen
Let's
the
go
movie.
watch The Mummy.
Yeah, let's just
Actually,
watch that.
I
Our
have it.
episode is over. We're just gonna go watch The Mummy and we'll tweet about it. Please
so,
continue.
60s and 70s at this Colossi of Memnon.
Okay.
At the mortuary, during the 1960s and the 70s, they found statue bases that were statues of Amenhotep when he was alive, like all sculpted and stuff, but they've been
Yeah.
broken off at his ankle.
Oof.
And there's about 40 of them, which is a little
Excessive.
excessive, but they had money. And at the bases, right, so he's standing on top of like this brick, if you imagine, and there's inscriptions with names. And these are names that when you plot them out on a map, they describe a trip that goes from Egypt to Crete to mainland Greece and then back to Crete and then back to Egypt.
Okay.
So like they think one theory is that it's literally an itinerary, it's a path that they took. So either
It was their Google Maps back in the day.
No, there wasn't. But you know what?
No, that's what they used for Google Maps back in the day.
They use rocks.
Yeah.
They might have, because every place that's listed when they went there, they found Amenhotep statues there, which is pretty interesting.
Oh, so that's like the little pin when you're ordering like an Uber and you're like, well, where's your location? You put the pin down, but it's an Amenhotep statue.
I'm mad that I didn't read about any of this in my research. I feel like you went off on these incredible tangents. And
Who, me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you.
learn about
What are you
primitive
talking
Google
about?
Maps. We're out here just talking about
Yeah.
copper and tin.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's just one of the most important things that happened during the Bronze Age was the fact that these people traveled. And trade routes weren't over just land, but they were over water as well. This was the first time that these cultures were mingling for the first time in history because of the Bronze Age and these trading routes and things like that.
Right.
Literacy and art was at its all-time high.
At least in that area.
Yeah.
When you look at it, it's actually not that big.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what else is going on at the time, but like in America, what is there, like the Olmecs, which I guess are literate as well.
From Legends of the Hidden Temple.
I don't understand the reference.
Because Olmec is the big talking stonehead that gives you tasks on the Nickelodeon show Legends of the Hidden Temple.
I think he might be too young for that.
No, was that team show? Did they compete in like this little like
2 partners wearing colored shirts?
There was
right,
like
and
the
there
purple
was
monkeys
the
and the
purple
green
monkeys.
snakes.
I remember the purple monkeys.
Yeah.
I remember this.
Yeah,
very vaguely.
Olmec was the big talking head.
I remember him.
Yeah.
And didn't they get? If they didn't win, they got oozed or whatever. They got the slime on them.
They got like put down in the death dungeon, and like tortured to death.
I don't think that. I'm pretty sure they just got covered in green
I
yogurt.
watched like the Lost episode where like the team got like imprisoned and they were buried alive with scarabs.
Oh man. Anyways.
All right.
So that's basically.
That was happening in America at the time.
Yeah.
Quote me on that.
Oh man.
Okay. So,
I have tears. I don't know why.
We covered a lot more than I thought we were gonna cover, so I guess we can keep going.
All right.
Would like to just go right into the collapse, and this could be like a 45 minute episode.
Yeah, you know what the heck? Let's go for it.
Let's go for it.
Sure.
Let's go for it.
You guys are all with us. You've listened to the past 2 episodes. You're stuck with us this long. Let's keep going.
It's only been 5.
At this point,
I
we've
know.
had more than 2 episodes.
Yeah, you survived our Pant Monster episode, so if you've survived that, you can survive anything.
Oh my gosh.
Alright, so, what caused the collapse of the Bronze Age?
Well.
Ooh.
Well, for a long time, historians didn't really know. There was a lot of possibilities, such as, let me see here, I want to quote my notes and not just paraphrase right now because I'll end up saying something that's not true. But possible contributors to the collapse were climate change, volcanoes, changes in warfare. History.com suggested earthquakes, famine, and socio-political unrest, and an invasion by nomadic tribes playing a role. But, interestingly enough, if we want to go with science, a study was done in 2013 of fossilized pollen particles taken from sediments at the bottom of the Sea of Galilee. And that study argues that the reason the Bronze Age actually collapsed was because of a succession of severe droughts over a 150-year period. So science says it was droughts, but
that's not the whole story.
Yeah.
Exactly. So tell
That's
us
just
the whole
a
story,
piece
Eli.
of the story.
It's just a piece. No, we're not here to talk about earthquakes
Or pollen.
Or we're here to
or
talk about
science.
aliens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
science can get the heck out of here. 'Cause we're talking about what really happened, and that was
Sea people.
aliens and sea
Mermaids.
people. Maybe even
From
Bigfoot.
Atlantis.
I will take full responsibility. Now, I suggested this topic because I thought it was going to be aliens and mermaids, but it was not.
Yeah.
So
He read Sea People and thought mermaids.
it was purposefully vague.
When you told us this topic, and so I went home and I Googled Bronze Age fish people, and nothing came up, and I was like, oh, maybe it's wrong. Bronze Age sea people, and I found I was reading, and I was like, all right, where's the weird stuff?
Yeah, I know.
So then I did Googled Bronze Age aliens. I Googled Bronze Age supernatural. I was trying to find anything that was weird.
Where's the cryptids?
Because this is what happened. It was on my Facebook feed, and a little picture came up, a little clickbaity article. I didn't click on the article, It just said
You just read the headline.
the collapse of the Bronze Age was brought on by the sea people, and nobody knows who they were. And it had a picture of a fish person. So I was like, dude, this is weird.
You got played.
But the reason we're still talking about it, despite the fact that maybe they were actual humans and not fish people, is because there is a mystery surrounding it. We don't know where these people came from. There's many pharaohs and leaders who have accounts of battles with the sea people, but no background information about where they came from, just simply saying they came from the sea. And like there was one pharaoh, I think it was Ramses the Great, actually, who like he gives like no introduction about the sea people. It's like everyone who he expected to read his inscriptions and his accounts were just supposed to already know who the sea people were because they were that popular.
I have a different theory about why he didn't mention anything much about the sea people, and I have his exact inscription in my notebook here.
Sure
Ramses III at his mortuary.
Because Ramses the Third and Ramses the Great are two different Ramses.
Well, I'm pretty sure Ramses the Great wasn't around when the sea people came around. But
No. He was.
I don't think so.
He was.
I don't think so.
He's got some accounts, actually.
Yeah, what do they say?
Ramses the Great, he has... Make me scroll through my notes. He definitely was around when the sea people were there. It was him, his successor Merneptah, and Ramses the Third. So Ramses the Great, side note, some people think that he was the pharaoh during the exodus of the people from Egypt, but science says he wasn't. But that's a side note.
Yes.
Ramses the Great, he took the throne in his late teens, and early in his reign, the Hittites seized the important trade center of Kadesh. I think I'm saying that wrong, which is modern-day Syria, and he led his army to drive them out. But he also claimed a great victory and had the story inscribed in detail and read to the people. His claim of victory is disputed because the Hittites claim that they won, blah, 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 blah.
No.
But...
I just looked it up.
Found that I'm right.
No, Ramses the Great was Ramses II, and he
Yes.
died in 1213. According to Ramses III, the sea people showed up twice, in 1207 and 1177. So he was not alive.
No, he definitely was. Because...
Okay. Well, the crucial thing.
Let's pause. Let's take a break.
No.
Oh,
This is good.
okay, all right.
This is good because we're gonna.
You don't need to attack me, Jasmine.
I'm not attacking you. We're gonna figure it out live
Hashtag
on the
trigger.
air.
Live.
Because let me find my source.
Okay.
See, I'm reading from my notes directly, but let me go back to my website.
Yeah.
Do whatever you gotta do.
Well, I was gonna say because one of the Ramses had a big giant monument inscribed that says he defeated the sea people.
That's Ramses III.
Ramses III, or who have you?
And then there's another Ramses.
But they fought the sea people, pushed them back, killed them all on the shores.
Right, I'll read that.
But the problem is that really happened because Egypt was still in ruins with everyone else.
It wasn't at that time.
Oh.
And
Egypt
Ramses,
was the only one that wasn't conquered.
And
Fully, but they were kicked. They got their butts kicked in a big way.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
In
Yeah.
Ramses the Great's account, the sea peoples are mentioned as allies of the Hittites, but also as serving in his own army as mercenaries.
This just got a whole lot more confusing because that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But
How?
it does make sense because
in a
this
cosmic
is,
sort of way.
Here we go. Ramses III's inscription. The
Okay.
foreign countries made a conspiracy in their islands. All at once, the lands were removed and scattered in the fray. No land could stand before their arms. From Kate, Kode, Carchemish, Arzawa, and Alashia. They desolated its people and its lands, and its land was like that which has never came into being.
Ooh.
And he describes, he names them all. I'll name them all in a second, but basically...
Name drop.
He attacks and then he enslaves them, and that's when the sea people are adopted into the Egyptian army.
And they had fish sticks for
But
days.
that's Ramses III. So how could they be working for Ramses II unless the dates are wrong? That's the only thing that would make sense.
You know the sea people can live in multiple time periods.
They can, but they weren't... they weren't mercenaries in the Egyptian army until after Ramses III took over.
Okay. So.
Because these people just show up out of nowhere.
Yes.
And
From the sea.
From the sea. And Ramses doesn't describe where they're from because he was focused on dominating them, and we'll see why in a second. Because they just show up and they start destroying civilization after civilization. Supposedly, I'm sure everything was like really weird about that, but like
there's a big no-no.
There's a big messy thing going on. So Egypt just decides we're gonna destroy them.
Okay.
So they kicked their asses.
Oh.
And then Egypt took them as slaves.
It's very problematic.
And that's the
end.
In
the hindsight.
That's the end of the Sea People.
Oh, okay. Well,
that I agree with.
Right.
Ramses III is the one where the Sea People disappear, but I don't. I'm having trouble understanding why I'm reading that Ramses
I don't
II
understand
exists.
either.
Yeah.
I don't know
because I don't. Let me see his actual inscription. I can't seem to find at the moment, but my source says the 3 great pharaohs who record their conflicts and victories over the Sea People are Ramses the Great, his son and successor Merneptah, and Ramses III. All 3 claimed great victories over their adversaries, and their inscriptions provide the most detailed evidence of the Sea People. Now, Ramses II, his inscription was more about him being victorious over the people that he was fighting. The Sea People were more of just like a side note. Like that wasn't the main concept or topic of his inscriptions. In his account, like I said, they were mentioned as being allies of the Hittites, but also serving as in his own army as mercenaries. No mentions made of where they came from or who they were, which suggests to scholars that the audience would have already had this information. He also relates how in the 2nd year of his reign, he defeated these people in a naval battle off the coast of Egypt. Ramses allowed... I'm reading directly from the source now, guys. Ramses allowed the Sea People's warships and their supply and cargo vessels to approach the mouth of the Nile, where he had a small Egyptian fleet positioned in a defensive formation. He then waited in the wings for the Sea People to attack what seemed to be an insignificant force before launching his full attack upon them from their flanks and sinking their ships. This battle seems to have involved only the Sheridan Sea Peoples, or at least they are the only ones mentioned, because after the battle, many were pressed into Ramses' army, and some served as his elite bodyguard. Ramses, always very confident in his inscriptions, gives the impression that he had neutralized the threat of the Sea People, but his successor's inscriptions tell another story. So Ramses the Great is the one saying that he stopped the Sea People, and that he's better than them, and that he enslaved them, and all this stuff, but that's not true. He's just conceited. So...
propaganda.
So they still show up again with Merneptah, and then the last time with Ramses III, but I'm pretty sure Ramses the Great had some encounters with that.
It didn't come up at all.
Yeah.
It did not come up.
Did you read his entire inscription?
Did you translate it correctly,
Ramses
Eli?
II. Because he has one too.
His name didn't come up at all in my research, at all.
His name came up first in mine.
Ooh.
What did you type in?
The Bronze Age Sea People. I'm looking at an article.
Bronze Age fish
called,
people. Where are they?
I don't know. Okay, so while we are continually trying to figure this out, as we're doing the podcast, we are going to
crack this case wide open.
I don't think we will.
I don't know either. All I can tell you is that I'm reading an ancient history encyclopedia.
Ooh, name drop.
Published in 2009.
Ooh, very credible.
And I mean,
that's so weird.
We got sources.
Yeah.
That's so bizarre.
His sources are the Encyclopedia of Ancient Egypt, Oriental Heritage, the Cambridge Ancient History, History of Ancient Egypt. These are all his sources.
Right.
I mean, I can try and actually find
I don't know.
Transcription of Ramses' actual account instead of just trusting this.
I have no idea.
I don't know
which Ramses, because it mentions 3 Ramses. Which Ramses inscription is it?
Ramses II.
How do you know that?
Because Ramses II equals Ramses the Great.
What does it say?
What does what say?
Your article.
My article says, in Ramses the Great...
Show me the Carfax.
In Ramses the Great's account, the sea people are mentioned as allies of the Hittites, but also as serving in his own army as mercenaries. That's what it says. Ramses the Great is Ramses the Second, and then he's got a whole second section about Ramses the Third, where he talks about the fact that the sea people attacked and destroyed the Egyptian trading center. And
Right, that's Ramses the Third talking.
Yes,
That was what the
but stuff
the
happened
Great War
before.
of Baltan, I think.
What was that?
It was the War of
The
Balkan?
Balkans?
I think so. I thought there was a name for that war that one of the Ramses claimed to kick some booty at.
Ooh, I have no idea. I did not get into that.
Okay.
But
Well,
I
yes.
will name the names. I'm going to name the names.
All right, you can call them out.
We have, because Ramses III describes them as a confederation.
Ooh, of dunces.
The confederation was the Peliset, the Tejeker, Shekelesh, the Denyen, and the Weshesh.
So he had a stroke as he was going to name
I
them.
don't.
And they recorded it down. I'm sorry. Continue.
Okay. So basically,
Yes.
those names are the only names recorded of the sea people.
Okay.
And basically every source that we have about the sea people comes from Egypt.
Except for one. Because a lot of it comes from Egypt, but there was a tablet that someone found.
Oh no, another level? All right,
Yeah.
here we go.
It was...
It's getting wild in here.
It's getting hot in here. Usually I don't feel the heat, but it's getting a little heated.
So Eli mentioned, almost all mentions of the sea people are in Egyptian writings, inscriptions, tablets.
Yes.
But there was one tablet that was found more in the Middle East, in a small city that was destroyed in a kiln. They found a tablet that had just
I have
finished.
something to talk about that kiln.
Yeah.
Actually, go ahead.
Yeah.
Finish it and then...
But it was kind of like a cry for help. It was a reply to cry for help.
Mhm.
And it said, "My father, behold, the enemy ships came here. My cities were burned, and they did evil things in my country. Does not my father know that my troops and chariots are in the land of Hatti, and all my ships are in the land of Luca? Thus the country is abandoned to itself. May my father know it. The 7 ships of the enemy that came here inflicted much damage upon us." And that's like the only non-Egyptian reference to sea peoples.
Right. Here's the thing, though, is we
Oh.
don't... A new study came up. My boy Eric Klein
All
said
right.
this. That,
Guy who made jeans.
Yeah, that guy.
All right.
Basically, he was saying that was found next to a bunch of other tablets, correct? It was,
My study just said it was like the only
Oh.
tablet in the kiln.
well, the new theory is that it fell from a 2-story building.
Okay.
And it was in a bag, and the bag wasted away, but the tablet stayed, but the bag was in the shape of a kiln.
Or,
And that's what he said.
bear with me, it was planted by aliens
Oh, God. Okay.
who also planted dinosaur bones to make us think the Earth is not as old.
older than it is.
Yeah, it's all making sense. I finally I cracked the code. It was aliens, god damn it.
Yeah, but...
Or I have another theory, but we'll get
Go
to that
for it.
later.
Oh, okay.
Or if you guys want to hear it now,
I'm on board.
time travelers.
They went back in time and did what?
They were like, let's go see what happened to the Bronze Age.
And then they
And
caused,
they caused
they
it.
caused the collapse.
Yeah, it's like the butterfly effect.
And unfortunately got enslaved by Egypt. at the
Yeah,
end of it.
and so but they couldn't write anything because their hands got burned up in the process of time travel.
Then how did they fight? What's going on? This makes no sense.
I'm just throwing whatever I can to make it somewhat more weird. Because science and history has proven to be interesting.
Well, I have another.
It was just pollen. It was prehistoric pollen that caused the drought. And everybody died. The end. Thank you for listening. If you have any complaints, email us at cryptidcampfirepodcast@gmail.com.
I have another source that says Ramses the Great encountered the sea people, so.
What is it, though?
Only took...
BeyondScienceTV.com.
Ooh, all right.
Beyond science.
The existence of the sea people was first revealed and described in the middle of the 19th century by a man named Emmanuel de Rogue, who served as a curator at the time. His interpretations about the sea people came from the famous Medinet Habu inscriptions. I am butchering all.
The Medinet Habu.
Yeah,
That's Ramses III's mortuary.
But, which is considered the main source as well as the basis of various discussions about the seafaring confederacy in the Mediterranean region. But it has been agreed on by various experts that the earliest possible record of the sea people is traced all the way back to the reign of Ramses II, the third pharaoh of the 19th Egyptian dynasty, early in the reign of Ramses the Great. This again tells the story of the Hittites attacking and having the sea people as allies, with the whole seas of Kadesh, modern-day Syria.
Right.
Okay.
Regardless of whether or not Ramses II defeated the Hittites during the clash, what really makes his inscription so valuable is what the pharaoh said about the sea people. Apparently, I need to find this dang inscription, but I can't, because everyone's saying that he says something about it, but...
And
could
they
be
have
hard
pictures
to
of the
find.
inscription, and it's just it's just pictures.
It's just pictures.
Yeah, we don't know what it is.
True.
It could have just been an art project that somebody misread horribly.
But going back to what you said about
My head hurts.
It only took us 6 episodes to derail completely.
This is what the people want. They want confrontation and conflict. They want to hear us argue.
I wouldn't want that from my podcast, but what I was gonna say.
Well, where's the excitement if we all agree?
I don't know, Jasmine. I don't know.
It's just like full of piss and vinegar today.
I don't know what's going on today, but
Our chakras are out of
Jasmine
line.
brought up a very important person.
Thank
Ramses
you.
II.
No, the French guy.
Oh, Frenchie.
I forget his name.
Ramses the 23rd.
Oh God. You forgot
See,
about the one
this is
Ramses?
why people need to stop having the same name in freaking...
You forgot about the one Ramses who he fought a very special person named Nacho Libre.
Oh.
This is the worst movie ever. That's the most genuine laugh I've heard come out of you. What episode number is this? What
This is
episode?
This is unsafe.
Stick with us, guys.
All right.
Well,
This is where it gets good.
the French person who found the inscriptions,
Yes.
he was not the guy who popularized the idea.
Okay.
It was another French guy named Gaston Maspero.
Oh.
And no one fights like
Gaston. No one like Gaston.
So he took Rouge's ideas and his evidence and his research, and he solidified the idea in the 1860s.
Okay.
And by 1901, it was generally accepted that the sea people caused the Bronze Age collapse. That's why we think so much of the sea people, even though it probably really wasn't the sea people.
It was pollen.
It was that pollen.
No, it was drought that we have evidence of in the pollen at the bottom of the sea.
Well,
Next to the hole in the bottom of the sea.
I was trying to think of that song. There's a
so
hole in something.
I guess going deeper into what Jasmine brought up earlier, the fossilized pollen, the pollen cores, dug up by David Kaniewski.
Ooh.
And he did, I think he did 3 of them in different areas.
And he had really
And
bad
it's
allergies
the same
because
results.
of it.
Yeah,
Ah.
to fossilized pollen. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's allergic to
Real
it.
nasally kind of guy.
And it does suggest a dry climate in the Mediterranean belt at that time.
That was why Atlantis showed up.
Another guy,
Okay.
Brandon Drake, in 2012 said that he'd collected evidence. I don't know how this was done. I have no idea. But he has evidence that the surface level of the Mediterranean Sea at the time had cooled, which means, less rain, causing a drought. Such drought. And what happens when you have a drought? You have no food, and you have what's called a famine.
Ooh. That's one of the 4 horsemen.
Yes, he is one of them. He is one of 4.
Yeah. But then there's the fifth one who shows up on a pale horse.
Wait, what? I thought he was one of the four. So, according to a tablet found from the house of Urtinu.
I'm getting sick of tablets and inscriptions.
They kept finding all these. They
paper
found a
back
bunch
then.
of Nook tablets everywhere.
It says a famine is ravaging the town of Emar in 1185.
Okay.
That's guesstimated. A Hittite king said that, "Did you not know there was a famine in the midst of my land?
Did you not know?
Did you not know?" And I'm not sure who he was writing that to, but
His
basically,
mama?
we do know there was a drought, and that caused a famine. But was there more?
Oh.
Was there civil unrest? Yes, there was.
Yes.
Was there people having allergies because of this pollen?
Yeah, and everyone's acting real crazy.
Yeah, everyone's-
They're putting
everyone's
fluoride in
acting
the
up.
water.
Yeah. Fluoride toothpaste.
The Egyptians they just started dumping fluoride in the Mediterranean.
It's true. It's all true.
It's all true.
every last bit of it.
So we have a letter from the king of Ugarit. See, no tablet this time.
I'm gonna be
Ooh.
honest, I don't even know what we're talking about anymore.
Yeah.
The Ugarit is the Minoans, one of the Aegeans.
Oh.
If you remember, all the way back to the very beginning when we talked about.
When we-
The people, just the normal people who live in this region.
Yeah,
Back-
just regular people.
Just back to the beginning.
Not
of the,
sea people, because there are multiple
sea people.
sea people groups.
There are, yeah.
There's creatures from the Black Lagoons. There's the old ones from Father Dagon and Mother Hydra.
Mm-hmm.
There's the one from Shape of Water.
Doug Jones.
Doug Jones.
Good man.
Uh,
Sorry to
So,
interrupt.
this
Continue,
one-
Eli.
all right, so a private letter from Ugarit. And it kind of gets melodramatic towards the end.
Oh no.
When your messenger arrived, the army was already humiliated and the city was sacked. Our food in the threshing floors was burnt and the vineyards were also destroyed. Our city is sacked. May you know it. May you know it. And that's the end of that letter there.
So they got sacked.
Yeah, they got sacked.
They got sacked
Pretty much
in a
everyone.
big way.
So, nobody really knows what's going on at this time. It just
Yeah,
sounds
we
like every-
don't even
Clearly.
know. This podcast is the definition of the collapse of the Bronze Age.
Oh,
Nobody knows what's happening, and there's all these different speculations happening.
But maybe all of this confusion will lead you to do your own research. Like, isn't that our real
Yeah.
our goal with this podcast
Isn't that
is
the
to
best-
get people thinking and wondering
Yeah,
and
you
exploring
listen to us talk,
and believing.
and then you go out and you go on Wikipedia and figure it out for yourself.
go on a field trip. Go study some pollen.
Right.
Go read some tablets.
Yeah, the Nook tablets.
I still have 2 more pages of research.
Go for it.
All right, you know what the heck? Let's go.
Are we talking about the collapse still or some
Yeah,
other
no,
random
we're still
stuff?
talking about. No, what do you mean?
Sea people?
Yeah.
We're still talking about the collapse
All right.
and the
Yeah.
other factors.
We haven't even mentioned that one of the possibilities is the fact that they just discovered iron and that they started using iron instead.
Well, that was a few years after, actually.
Yeah. Everyone died before that happened.
Yeah.
Well, not everyone could die before that happened.
No,
There
I'm
gotta
pretty
be
sure the
some
whole
people.
population went down to 0. Every human
Every
in the
human
world
died, and then more just appeared.
What-
And how did that happen?
What
sea
what
people?
happened was
Aliens.
yeah, actually what happened was the entire what we consider to be the human race died out, and then an alien ship crash landed, and we're all the descendants of these aliens.
Scientology.
Oh dang!
That's what
you
that
said it.
I wouldn't invoke that name. I live very close to a Scientology building,
We'll fix this and
and
edit.
they write handwritten letters.
That's
I've seen
scary.
it.
They write on tablets.
Let's hope they don't listen to this.
They probably are.
Way to go, Alex.
So,
I was making a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy reference.
So I guess we're talking about
Yeah, you jumped the gun.
everything getting wild. Everybody's killing everybody. But the problem is, and here's the problem when you destroy stuff, is that you don't really leave a mark about who destroyed what.
Mm-hmm.
So we have all these ruins. Some things are burnt down, but we really don't know who did it. Was it the sea people? Was it civil unrest? We don't know who did it. And actually, a lot of the ruins that we see aren't even the result of sackings or burnings. It's just
Sacking.
earthquakes.
Yeah.
Earthquake.
Because actually, there's a lot of cities in that area. The whole Mediterranean is basically on a bunch of different fault lines.
Mm-hmm.
So like earthquakes happen all the time.
I said, like I know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
but-
They were on the ley lines.
Let's see. Whoa. There's actually Mycenae for the Mycenaeans.
Ooh.
Mycenaeans.
The
They built their
Proto-Greeks,
main
if you
city
will.
on the fault line.
Mm-hmm.
Smart.
Like San Francisco. So
Smart.
Hey.
Smart.
yeah.
They
So
also wore the same outfits as most people in San Francisco.
probably. And we found bodies of people being crushed by rubble and stuff.
You found
Oh.
bodies?
They found them.
You said we.
Yeah,
Did
we found them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
You
found
said
them.
we.
Yeah,
And we brought them
Eli-
on the show.
yeah. Eli was doing some construction work in his house. He found bodies in the wall.
Oh god.
That's an episode of Criminal Minds.
Or the beginning of Sicario. They found 17 bodies in 6 sites.
Ooh.
That's centered around that time period.
Mm-hmm.
And there's evidence that earthquakes happen because if you've ever seen ancient ruins, I'm sure you guys have seen pictures of,
Pictures, yes.
and you see the walls and they're all like wiggly, and you're like, why would they build them that way? Well,
They didn't.
they didn't.
Fact check.
Earthquakes make them wiggly.
Ooh.
So-
Wiggle, 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 wiggle.
But
wiggle.
earthquakes weren't invented until the 19th
And
century.
I feel really dumb because I always thought they built them squiggly like that.
Yeah.
I was like, why would they do that? It's like-
You felt dumb? I thought the Bronze Age was an American thing, so let's not worry about who feels dumb.
I mean, I typed in Bronze Age fish people for my research. A lot of help that did.
I want to be
But
where
here we
the
go.
people are.
There might be a reason though, because the sea people, the fish people, all the peoples, some
The
of
village people.
some of the theories behind it. One of the major theories is that they're the Philistines from the Bible,
Yeah.
because they have a lot of sea gods like Dagon,
Mm-hmm.
which is basically a giant fish person.
Big old
so-
fish head.
Yeah, so
And he
Fish
was
heads,
culturally
fish
appropriated by
heads.
Lovecraft.
Holy
Yeah.
poly fish.
and
heads,
they're
fish
also
heads,
mentioned in
fish
what do you?
heads. Eat them up. Yum. You never heard that song?
No, I've never heard that song.
Look it up. Fish heads.
Fish heads.
Not now.
Oh, too late. Just kidding.
Oh boy.
So, Philistines.
Mentioned in Syrian, Phoenician, and Egyptian letters in case the Bible wasn't a good enough historical record for you.
It's true.
It's for a lot of people, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
So it's generally agreed, though, that they were a group of sea people. That's the term I found. They were described as sea people because they used to sail a lot
Mm-hmm.
and they
And-
settled the area, but no one agrees where they came from. So
Mm-hmm.
it's possible that they are the survivors of the Egyptian enslavement or all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I dig
okay.
it.
Yeah, so that's one. That's
There's
That's where they went, is what you're trying to say.
that's where they went after they destroyed everything, and then
Disappeared.
and then they started fighting the Israelites, just cause.
yeah.
Just 'cause they were on a warpath.
They had too many Jaeger bombs and got a crazy idea in their head. There's a theory that they could have been real early Vikings before the Vikings became Vikings.
Really?
Yeah.
I
They
didn't
were
read
like,
that
oh,
one.
maybe they came from Scandinavia, and there was just like the first attempt at the Vikings kind of figuring out if they could, rape and pillage everything.
Oh.
Fun times.
Then there's a theory because we had the drought, climate change.
Right.
It was Atlantis
Yeah. it
decided
was
to
definitely
declare
Atlantis.
war and sent the fish people out. I'm telling you.
Well, if there was
And
climate change and those sea levels are going down,
and they were
Atlantis
funded
is gonna
by
struggle.
aliens.
What about aliens?
And they were funded by the
They were
aliens.
funded by the aliens.
Yeah.
And Chupacabra was released on them.
Yeah.
And just all
They
of
had
this.
chupacabras on leashes that they sent out as attack dogs.
Oh dear. Ooh, we really.
We're gonna rewrite history
We
the right
really-
way. tell you what the real
So-
thing is, man.
Basically, this was nobody knows.
Basically, it's a mystery wrapped within a mystery.
I mean, is that anything that we're ever gonna talk about is a mystery anyway? I mean,
Yeah.
let's be
Yeah.
real. We're talking about
In a
our
cryptic
podcast
kinda
is
way.
Cryptid Campfire. Like, this
I
is
still feel like like Chupacabra. I can feel like I can say is not real,
okay.
or
Well-
like the Flatwoods monster is probably not real.
Well, watch yourself.
Okay, I'm sorry, but like I don't know.
We got a lot of listeners out
There-
Well,
there.
the Bronze Age definitely happened.
And it definitely ended because it's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
around anymore.
Yep.
And we just don't know how that happened.
Don't know how it happened, why it happened.
Science
Wh-
says drought.
It took us a few thousand years to kind of get back up on our feet after the Bronze Age collapsed.
You say our and we like we're from the Middle East.
We are.
Yeah, we're all descended.
Yeah.
In a cosmic
True.
kind of way.
Very true. But again,
I mean,
Not
the-
America.
All life started in Africa. Just kind of started.
we're
Yeah.
getting into
I mean,
That's a theory.
when the little fish grew legs and climbed out of the water and started
Oh,
finding
boy.
dinosaurs.
Started finding dinosaurs.
Yeah.
this.
So
really,
okay.
this
All right.
really got away from us this round.
All right.
I don't know if this is gonna come out. To be real,
What?
I don't know.
I mean, if you have any theories or ideas,
I have no theories except that maybe this podcast should end.
then you can email us at cryptidcampfirepodcast@gmail.com.
Don't
Please-
at me.
Please add him. No.
Yeah.
Let us know if you think Ramses the Great encountered the sea people or not, because apparently.
I think he did. You provided good evidence.
Thank
for-
you. I appreciate.
Yeah, that
you.
hour-long seminar is a load of BS.
I don't think he wrote a book on it.
Yeah, that book is wrong.
Well-
You can find us on Twitter. What are your guys' Twitter handles?
You can follow me at Jasmine May W. That's JasmineMaeW.
And what about you?
Don't at me.
Yeah,
Don't
come
at
on,
me.
get
He's
your.
at EJ Workshop. That's EJWORKSHOP.
And you can find me at Alex Daikaiju. That's Alex DAIKAIJU. And you can tweet us any theories, ideas you have. We may not have figured out what ended the Bronze Age, but we know what ended this podcast. Bad research. Thank you, and we'll see you next week, everybody.